What's up, everyone? We're here for another post-game podcast after the Bucks and Celtics had one of the strangest games of basketball I can remember seeing. In some ways, it was probably fitting for Summer League, but I tweeted about it. The summer of Mamu continues. He played pretty well on this night. We got our second look at MarJon Beauchamp. There's an interesting point guard battle, I would say, between Vildoza and Lindell Wiggington. We're going to discuss all that. Let's get started.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Bucks. My name is Kane Pittman. I forgot what I normally say on this podcast, but you can see me on this podcast and also hear me on this podcast Monday to Friday and post games, potentially on the weekends as well. But make sure you subscribe and you'll be notified when the next show comes up alongside me, the founder of brewhoop.com and longtime voice of the podcast, Frank Madden. And of course, we thank you for making Locked On Bucks your first listen or first watch of every day. And Frank tweeted the episode out the other night. He said hashtag sickos only, which, by the way, was not only appropriate, but I thought it was good stuff. I got a good laugh out of it. And then I looked at the audio and I looked at the YouTube numbers. We had over 8,000 downloads of this Summer League post-game podcast. And I think part of that is the optimism around MarJon Beauchamp. But there's also just plenty of sickos that like listening to Locked On Bucks. So hashtag sickos only. We appreciate it. Tonight, this game against the Celtics, I've got to be honest. I've said before that I find the enjoyment factor of Summer Leagues sometimes a little difficult. And let's be honest, the Bucks have been a tough watch in Summer League most years. But this game was wildly entertaining, I thought. There was so much going on. Pat Connaughton was going crazy on the sidelines. Bobby Portis was fired up. There was posters. There was the craziest game winner I can remember for a while. This was just a strange game. They couldn't even figure out the scoreboard. I don't know whether this was peak Summer League or just classic Summer League. I'm not sure.
Well, first off, Kane, I think you forgot to mention that you can find your work at ESPN Australia.
Yes, that's true. Great.
That's your day job, just as a reminder. I guess we talked about your weekend doing sideline for the ESPN Australia broadcast of the Boomers basketball games. That's pretty dope, man. I was really excited.
A true con artist, I am, Frank. A true con artist.
I mean, hey, who would have thought? Look at us, whatever.
That's right.
Not me. But this is just a weird game. I honestly, when I think about it, the fact that the Celtics won on it's not a Hail Mary because it wasn't that far out, but like a running prayer 3-pointer by a guy as he was injuring his ankle badly, so he couldn't even celebrate it. That wasn't even the weirdest part to me was this whole score issue. Like the whole idea that they would think they had the score wrong, flip it so that the Bucks gained 2 points basically. And then with 11 seconds left, they would be like, oh, actually, we think we got that wrong. I can't say I think I have seen scenarios where the score is not correct and they have to kind of stop the game and fix the score. But I've never seen them stop the game to fix the score. And then it turns out they had it right. And then literally, on the Bucks final, turned out to be, I guess it more or less was their final possession, right? They got that Hail Mary from Lindell Wiggington at the very end. But they had the ball coming back with 11 seconds left, and you thought it was going to be when they're winning by one, and instead they're losing by one. So, if that was an NBA game, this would be being held up as, just the worst officiating. How can they screw this? How can the game ops people screw this up? Because it's sort of always things too, where it's like, I feel like that's on the scores table, right? Like I don't even know if the refs are even, I feel like you take that for granted that the scores table can keep the game score correct, but obviously they didn't. And the officials had to weigh in and looked like they were looking at pieces of paper from the box score play-by-play or something. So, but yeah, strange game, crushing game for the Bucks to lose. I was almost too upset to podcast with you tonight because I was just so upset that the Bucks lost.
Well, let's just say, you mentioned if this was a regular season game, but let's just say if I saw a couple of people tweet about this, that even some Bucks fans were just like, I'm actually genuinely a little bit pissed off about this whole scoreboard situation and losing this game. Now, I'm not personally, but I did think about the fact if this was a regular season game, it would be incredibly controversial the way this ended. I mean, I can understand why there are, as much as we joke, there might be some Bucks fans saying, I'm actually annoyed about this. This is annoying.
I will not be one of those people because ultimately it was a summer league game. But
the rings, they give out rings now, Frank.
That's true. That's true. It is hashtag rings season for the Vegas Bucks in summer league. So hopefully this will not derail their quest for one of those coveted summer league rings. But I don't know. I mean, where do you want to start with that weird game? Ultimately, Bucks lose. I think they were up 106-100, but I guess they were really only up 105-101 at the time. So, in terms of historic summer league collapses, I guess it wasn't technically as bad. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, where do you want to start? I mean, as we've been kind of talking about last game, and there's a number of interesting sort of subplot players. With you mentioned Mamu, MarJon Beauchamp's probably the person people are most interested in. But then we also have these other guys. Lindell, Wiggington was sort of the standout overall tonight, other than probably Mamu. And you've got Vildoza and Ray John Tucker and Iverson Molinar, who we heard the Bucks had signed to a summer contract. He didn't play last game. He played today. No Hugo Besson, so very disappointing that we didn't get to see Hugo today.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, what do you want to start with? Do we start with? I feel like MarJon Beauchamp is probably the player people are most interested in. Should we start with him? Even though I don't think either of us would say he was the Bucks' best player, but he is probably the most notable one, the player that people are most interested in.
Yeah, I think we should start with MarJon. Although I'm just looking at the Bucks score and I'm realizing that there is a player on the Bucks roster, Francisco. They've got a city. They've got a city on the Summer League roster. It's incredible stuff. This guy obviously didn't play any minutes, but it's just interesting seeing some of the names on the Bucks score of guys that aren't even playing. By the way, Hugo, give you drafted. You paid the draft pick. Give this man some minutes, for goodness sake. But anyway, let's start with MarJon. And this is, I wouldn't say, again, it wasn't a dominant offensive performances. He had some moments offensively. Again, the little things that you like to take away from this. He hit the corner three, which is nice. He had a couple other threes that didn't look so nice. A couple of air balls mixed in there. I think on drives, I don't know whether I haven't watched enough of him to know whether this is how he drives or whether he is forcing it a little bit. There's no doubt he wants to try and impress, and he probably thinks he's playing summer league. He's playing or making some offensive moves that, again, you're not really going to see when he's playing with the Bucks anyway. So I'm not sure how much time you spend worrying about it. But he has shown an ability to me that on some drives, he can sort of work through a little bit of contact and still find a way to score, which is nice to see. But perhaps the most important aspect of what we think he's going to bring to the table if he plays in the NBA is just defensively. He really looks like a guy that can hold his own, defend multiple positions. Again, he has size. One of the interesting things I saw, he was standing next to Mamu during a stoppage of play. I was like, they're basically the same size. They look like they're the same guys. Like he's a genuinely big guy. Which obviously helps. So I think the defense, again, was probably the highlight if you're looking for what he can do with the Bucks in the NBA this year, even though, like you said, we would love to see a 25-point game sprinkled in here if possible.
Yeah, this was another really weird game. His first quarters, the last two games have just been, it's taken him a little while to get going. Tonight, he has a fast break layup attempt blocked. He had a kind of like a little runner that didn't look like it got blocked to me initially, but I guess in the score, he missed it completely. It was an air ball. So I guess it makes sense that was blocked as well. And then, was wide right and deep, I think, on an open three in the first quarter. So he starts the game 0 for 3 without hitting the rim. And then banks one in at the first quarter buzzer, hit that late second quarter shot in the previous game. So, again, if your only made shot is a banked three, I don't know that, that's exactly high praise for where you are from a shooting perspective. And then He came out in the second quarter and airballed another 3. So yeah, it was a rough start. I think he was 1 for 6 to start this game, but then finally got settled down. I think he caught a dump off pass, finished one around the bucket to get to 5 points. And then start of the third quarter, he had kind of took not a dribble handoff, but basically kind of came cutting from the top, takes I don't know if it was 1 or 2 dribbles, and kind of looked like he was a little off balance. Might have gotten fouled, but kind of throws it off the glass and in, kind of a little bit of an excuse me type shot. But kind of seemed to get him on track suddenly, because then he comes back, hits a 3, and then in transition, he has another kind of somewhat acrobatic finish and a foul to give him 8 points in the first 2 minutes of the third quarter. So he goes from 1 for 6 late in the second quarter to all of a sudden early in the third quarter he's got 13 points. And I think at that point was almost at 50% shooting. I think he was actually at 50% shooting at that point. So yeah, just kind of a uneven offensive performance. He in the fourth quarter, his only basket was kind of a short dribble pull up. Looked comfortable doing that. You think you watched sort of video of him in the G League last year, actually looks like reasonably comfortable kind of going into a pull up jump shot. This one was pretty short. It might have been like a 12-footer or something like that. But hey, if he's got just more shots that he's comfortable with, obviously that's nothing but a positive thing. But overall, as we said last game, they are not using this as for better or worse, they're not using this experience so far as a, opportunity to have him play a much different role than he would in the regular season. He's spending a ton of time camped out in the corner. And, basically then depending on what happens, he'll kind of cut in from the wing to the middle of the floor, sometimes get a dribble handoff. But, otherwise, he's kind of just out there hoping for to get the ball movement, transition, dump offs, things like that. So again, that's kind of what he's going to have to do in the regular season when he's playing with, the real rotation. I think we'd all enjoy seeing some more opportunities for him to maybe be able to explore the space a little bit more. But by the same token, tonight he had a couple of drives where the handle just looked really loose. He had a drive last game where it looked like he might beat his man, but he just literally left the ball and it just kind of bounced, it just kept bouncing and he was 5 feet past it. So yeah, I mean, I think just in terms of his game attacking the rim, he's got a bit of burst, I think, in terms of his first step. But just, doesn't play with a ton of strength right now. Clearly, as we've talked about, he's added a fair bit of weight since high school. But I think, again, you'd look at him, you'd still say, man, if he can get, 15, 20 pounds of additional, strength on him, it's going to make him, an even tougher defender. And I think hopefully offensively give him maybe a little bit better ability to hang on to the ball, to finish through contact, things like that. So, it sort of all depends on what your expectations are. I think when I think about him, if he can become, I can't remember if we talked about this, Kane, on draft night, but I mean, if he's a 10 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assist guy on, good efficiency because he can hit 35 to 38% of his threes, and he projects defensively like we hope he is, it's going to be a really valuable player, right? And then again, that guy's you're going to make a ton of money if you can do that. He does not need to be a big time scorer to be really valuable, especially on this team. And so, again, I think we all want to obviously hope for the best and hope that maybe there's more, offensive ceiling there, that he can become a much better offensive player, that there's development and things he can continue to get better. And hopefully there is. But I think the flip side is that you can have pretty modest expectations for him. And just given his size and the profile he has defensively, he could still be a player that ultimately plays a lot just based on that. So I think probably the one area that the last 2 games, he's been a little sloppy in, I think the fouling. Tonight he has 5 fouls, had a number of cheap fouls last game as well. I think some of that, just hints the fact that, again, he's not going to be, I don't think he's going to be, Herb Jones version 2.0 in terms of a guy that just comes in and is an off the shelf, just awesome defender who, you can trust in high leverage playoff minutes or something like that. I think there's still a learning curve there for him defensively that he'll probably need to figure out. But again, as you were alluding to, really like the tools that he has, and hopefully he figures it out sooner rather than later.
As you mentioned, the size and the weight that he's probably going to put on, and he's already referenced that he needs to put on. I'm not sure if everyone saw. Most people probably did. Most people follow Giannis on social media. But speaking of a guy that just looks absolutely jacked right now, Giannis is just looking insane in some of those photos that he put up. He's in Greece right now, so MarJon will be fine. He'll get in the gym with Giannis September, October through the season, and just follow along with him, and you should get some positive results. And the other way to get positive results is with Built Bar. From the people who invented healthy and tasty comes the latest gift to your taste buds. You probably tried the amazing coconut brownie chunk Built Bar, but guess what? Your friends at Built Bar have given coconut brownie chunk the puff treatment. That's right. The coconut brownie chunk Built Bar flavor you love in a deliciously chewy marshmallow covered in 100% real chocolate. It's like a fluffy cloud of coconut brownie goodness. But stop drooling, everyone. It's disgusting because they are good for you. Low calorie, low sugar, high protein, and delicious, of course. All Built Bars are made with collagen protein, which the body absorbs more efficiently and provides tons of health benefits, so you can eat something that tastes good and feel good about it as well. So you got delicious coconut, rich sweet brownie, creamy marshmallow. Stop fantasizing. Get to built.com to order your box of coconut brownie chunk Built Puffs right now. Go to built.com, use the promo code LOCKED15, and you'll get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 at built.com. Let's talk about what's going on, Frank.
I was muted. I was going to say, my wife came up to me the other day and she was like, "Hey," and I was like, "Oh, what'd I do?"
Oh, boy.
And she was like, and she said, "The Built Bars, the mud pie puff, whatever.
Yeah,
get more of those." And
really,
they're not. You can't get more of them right now. They're like, it's like the problem with them. Well, the one problem with Built Bar is that they're always going through new flavors, and I guess those might have gotten lost in the shuffle. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to, I may have to lean on you, Kane. You have way more sway with Built Bar at this point probably than I do. But I was actually looking at if I could tweet at them or DM them or something to ask if there's some the mud pie whatever puffs that are still out there, because that's my wife's favorite. I'm obviously more of a coconut peanut butter guy, but yeah, that's fun for the whole family, and a key to marital bliss, I guess, if you can make sure that your wife has the Built Bars that she likes.
I'm not married. In fact, I don't even have a girlfriend at the moment. But if you,
Wow.
I
Putting
know
yourself out there.
Yeah, that's right. But when you hear, I can only imagine when you hear the, Frank, I need to talk to you, or Kane, I need to talk to you. There could be a million scenarios running through your head, but the absolute ultimate scenario is that it's just a question about Built Bar. So that's good. That's good for you, Frank.
By the way, Kane? It's very much. Did you ever hear stories? I was a big Jackie Chan fan growing up, like the '90s. I started watching Rumble in the Bronx, Jackie Chan's First Strike, a lot of just awesome Jackie Chan movies. And I remember just reading something about how I think he was married, but like they didn't publicize it because like they didn't want to hurt his fans' feelings. I feel like that, like when you were just saying that you're like, you don't even have a girlfriend. I feel like, well, if Kane did, would it be bad for the brand to tell your many adoring fans out there that you are in a relationship? Because I don't know. There's probably some fangirls, fanboys, fan people out there who listen for Kane, and it's just like, Kane married, not as interesting. But Kane, single Kane, that's what the people tune in for.
Well, I just want to make it clear now, if by chance there is a woman that walks into the background of this camera right now, I've never met her, and she's a criminal, and I'm being burgled. So I just want to put that out there. Let's talk about Mamu. 28 points, 9 rebounds, a couple of assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks, and 3 for 5 from 3. This is a big night for Mamu. He also got dunked into. He got obliterated on a dunk, but he returned the favor with the big dunk of his own. He was high-fiving Bobby Portis and Pat Connaughton on the sideline. I was thinking about it after the game because I messaged out DM at one point. I said, freight train, Mamu has left the station, because it is. Yeah, there was, for the most part, he's just grabbing a rebound. And when he grabs the rebound, it's like, I'm running straight at the rim, get the hell out of the way. And it was pretty effective for him in Summer League tonight. I'm not sure how well that would work in the NBA, but this was a good game. And I was just thinking about him. We should give him a little bit of credit. We spoke about his size and some of his limitations on the last post-game podcast, but there is no doubt, even watching Mamu from last year's Summer League to this year, he wasn't playing like this last year in Summer League, that's for sure. He has developed a little bit, and I would say the biggest surprise for me, we know he can handle the ball, we know he can pass, those types of things. He's got a good eye for rebounding the ball, but some of the threes that he's shooting, one dribble, off movement, knocking them down, just looking really, really comfortable. Quick trigger is some of them that he's knocked down. I'm like, okay, this is not the guy that was playing in Summer League last year. We know he's never been shy. You referenced that his 3-point shooting numbers were actually good last season, but there is some higher degree of difficulty shots that he's taking and making.
Yeah, we talked about it. The concern last year was, okay, the swing skill is 3-point shooting. Last year, I've just got his Summer League numbers so in front of me, but last year, 26.5 minutes per game in Vegas, 5 games, average 11.2 points, 42% from the field, 25% from three. He was 3 for 12 in 5 games last year from 3-point range. 8.6 rebounds, 2.2 assists. This year now, he had 17 points on 50% shooting in the first game. He hit 4 out of 5 from 3 in the first game. He hit 3 out of 5 tonight. So he's at a tidy 70% from 3 in 2 games. Very sustainable. You just got to give him a lot of credit. Like, he's not thinking about it. I think last year when he was shooting those threes, if I remember correctly, keep me honest, listeners, I think he was short arming a lot of them. And that's the kind of thing not surprising for guys who are not maybe natural distance shooters, that when they get to the longer NBA line, that they end up kind of short arming a little bit. I mean, the best example to me was Brogdon when he was a rookie in 2016. I remember in his Summer League, he had like an insane assist to turnover ratio, but he just like short armed every three. And I think those of us who remember the way Malcolm shot threes, like that was pretty common. Like, he was a guy that it seemed like he needed to be exactly at the 3-point line and not shooting off the bounce in order to, and he was really good at those. But then if he was off the dribble, or if he was, 2 feet behind the line, he wasn't going to make it. He's obviously was an older player at the time, but coming from college, right? Probably wasn't used to the line. And so maybe, just kind of a normal thing for Mamu here as well in his second year. Seemed to get comfortable with that 3-point line over the course of his rookie season. And now, not really even having to think about it much. He's not thinking about, oh, should I take a three? Is it chucking if I'm putting up threes? No, I mean, he's like, I can make threes. I did it in the NBA last year. I'm going to do it in Summer League too. So kudos to him. Obviously just working on his game and developing, probably in terms of like from a shooting perspective. That's obviously the most critical thing that he can do, is getting comfortable with those above the break threes. And I think one of the things that impressed me last year as well was the ambidextrous finishing and his comfort level, going left foot with his right hand, going right foot with his left hand. Honestly, it seems like he's like, when I think about him dunking, he put that dunk down tonight late with his right hand, supposed offhand. Last year, I think he had a similar, not the same kind of dunk, but kind of a freight train Mamu, to quote Kane Pittman, going down the lane with his right hand. He just is one of those guys that seems pretty comfortable playing with either hand. Maybe a little bit of a reverse John Henson, a little bit in terms of being a lefty who can finish with his right. So offensively, I think you have to feel, in the totality of what we've seen from Mamu last year during the regular season offensively, and then certainly in Vegas here, just continuing the trend, continuing to shoot well. Been good to see. Not a whole lot of room for him, obviously, at the power forward / big spot to win minutes this year, but we would have said the same thing last year. And, lo and behold, a week into the season, he's playing major minutes and, getting thrown to the wolves, having to play center in a lot of action that perhaps he was not ready for. But, hopefully that's been part of his maturation process and, good for him.
All right. The other two guys that, is at least interesting in terms of right now, guys that we think have deals at least moving into training camp. And it's so funny. I as I read through the YouTube comments, there is clearly some standing for Luca Vildoza going on. And there was one YouTube commenter that said, if the Bucks let Luca Vildoza go, they will regret it. Mark my words. And, I think let's just be honest. Through 2 games in this summer league, if the Bucks are looking at summer league and saying, okay, well, we're going to carry one of these guys, whether it ended up being a 2-way or roster spot, whatever, and it was between Vildoza and Lindell Wiggington. Wiggington has significantly outperformed Luca Vildoza so far, both as a scorer, I think as a guy that looks like he feels comfortable taking care of the ball, and clearly he's been. I don't know what he scored in the first game, but I think he had 17. He had 22 tonight, I believe, but. Coming off the bench, and really the Bucks just look like a better team. They're just functioning better with Wiggington on the floor. Hit some big shots tonight. Hit a couple of clutch free throws as well. So if we're just purely pitting those two against each other, then to me the points pretty clearly go to Wiggington.
Yeah, I mean, I think you made fun of my appreciation for Lindell Wiggington last season.
I think it had more to do with the disgust you had with
Justin Robinson. And
right,
yeah,
right.
Well, Justin Robinson and Javonte Smart, I think, shot like under 30%, both of them during their cups of coffee in Milwaukee. And Wiggington came out and was hitting shots and, making some plays at least. Interesting player, not a guy that has a history of being a good 3-point shooter, but and not a very big guy physically, not a ideal size. He's not even Vildoza sized, right, in terms of just height and length, but really bouncy athlete, and I think kind of knows what he is. He knows that he's more of a bucket getting kind of combo guard, shooting kind of scoring point guard, and there's a fair history of those types of guys being able to do pretty well in Vegas, and just give him credit for taking advantage of the opportunity. And I think a guy like Vildoza probably, I don't know. I mean, I'm not high on Vildoza as a guy to make the roster. I think defensively he has not stood out as somebody that I look at as, oh yeah, that guy's gonna get playoff minutes ever in the NBA. But and again, I'm not saying Lindell Wiggington is closing any playoff games either, but Toluca's maybe defense a little bit. When you're more of a passing point guard and you're in kind of this type of environment, I mean, you could say, well, that this is kind of like, the defenses are disorganized, blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, you've been thrown together with these guys. Any offensive rhythm it's going to be hard to come by, right? And he's had some nice passes, but I think these types of scenarios will always favor guys that are maybe a little bit more scoring inclined. Unless you're Josh Giddey and you're just throwing alley-oops to Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams and stuff all day long, your boy Giddey, aka Chalamet. And then, but I think, yeah, Wiggington's done a nice job, and we'll see what happens. I think that the thing that's interesting to me is AJ Green, I think, was 0 for 5 tonight shooting threes. He obviously shot the ball really well to start the previous game, but I'm kind of just like, I didn't really get that signing from a two-way perspective when it happened. And again, I fully admit I'd never heard of AJ Green when they signed him, and I just sort of looked up, like watched some highlights and kind of looked up what he was, and I'm just like, my first reaction was, is this like another Bronson Koenig mistake where you sign a guy to a two-way because he was like a college shooter but doesn't really project as an NBA type of athlete, NBA type of player. So especially watching this game tonight, it's not just, I think, Wiggington versus Vildoza, but also I think a very reasonable question of, I mean, why would you give AJ Green a two-way when what is AJ Green's upside, right? I was sort of joking not even really joking, but kind of talking about, Matt Thomas is Matt Thomas his upside. Well, you can just go sign Matt Thomas for a minimum if you ever really want that type of player. And, obviously not, and it's not to say that Lindell Wiggington is going to be, a guy getting the taxpayer MLE from some team at some point, but I would always just rather bet on guys that are at least close to, or ideally more than NBA plus athletes. So for me, yeah, I mean, I'd rather run back Lindell Wiggington as a two-way than throw the dice on AJ Green, right? I don't know. It seems just a little odd to me, because I think we've seen this movie before, where there was, Brunson getting maybe a little harsh, but even Sam Merrill, right? It's just really hard for guys like this to really hack it and matter. There's just a natural ceiling on how good they can be. So hey, I hope AJ Green proves me wrong. Maybe he's got more to his game that I haven't appreciated yet. But again, as much as I don't think Wiggington, Vildoza, Rajon Tucker, obviously I don't think any of those guys are making, at this point, I would be surprised if any of those guys made the full-time opening night roster. The flip side is, with Wiggington, at least I'd say, hey, run it back on a two-way. And, you never know, right? I think he at least gave them some decent moments last year when he had to fill in coming off the bench in the regular season.
Totally agree. I also, for the most part, agree with the Locked On NBA crew. If you want to listen to the national show for the network, check that out. They'll have you covered with all the other stuff that's going on at Summer League. And let's be honest, it's hard to keep up with. You watch some highlights, you see the big name rookies, the way they're playing. But Locked On NBA will have you covered there if you want to go and check that out. And the good news is, Frank, we've got 2 more Bucks games this week. Wednesday night against Minnesota. Well, actually, I believe Wednesday afternoon against Minnesota. It's a 3 p.m. tip-off, I think. And then Thursday night against Dallas as well. So still plenty of Summer League basketball to go. Should we wrap this up? We went a bit long last time for a Summer League podcast, let's be honest.
We don't want to go deep cuts on why Hugo Besson isn't playing. Some conspiracy theories. It's
a little strange, but we have been talking. They've got 2 legitimate point guards that got a contract, and that makes sense. We don't know whether Hugo's going to be with the Bucks this season, but you'd think in these next couple.
We know
of games,
he's not, right? We know he's not. So you could argue, okay, why force feed minutes? But yeah, I think we probably assume, well, they at least want to get a look at him and see what they have, right? But I don't know. We still got at least a couple games left, right? So.
Couple games to go. Maybe Lindell Wiggington is maybe they've seen enough domination from Lindell Wiggington at the point.
Shut him down. Shut Lindell Wiggington down.
Yeah,
we're good.
Get him ready for training camp.
Don't risk him. Don't risk anything.
That's right.
Just put him on ice for the rest of the summer, and just keep those weapons ready for the games that matter.
All right, let us know what you think. If you disagree with any of this, agree with this, I'm sure there'll be some pushback with the Vildoza Wiggington conversation, which is the big battle over the preseason here. And
I will also say, I love Argentina as a country.
I've never been, but I would like to go. Yes,
I've never been, but big Leo Messi fan. Seeing Argentina win the Copa America last summer was one of my favorite soccer moments of my lifetime. So shout out to Argentina. If we have any Argentine fans, it's not about Argentina. I wish Luca Vildoza could play NBA level defense. I just don't quite see it right now. So yeah, no, nothing but love for my Argentines out there. I'm sure we have dozens listening to the podcast right now, but you never know. Who knows? Maybe Luca Vildoza gets that second two-way spot. We don't know. Anything's possible.
I agree. Thanks for clarifying. We'll be back tomorrow. It's going to say Frank, Justin, and Camille will join me for a little triple threat action tomorrow night. We'll continue to talk about Summer League and perhaps some other stuff that's going on around the NBA. So join us for that. And like I said, if you haven't subscribed on YouTube or followed on the audio platform, whatever you're listening, make sure you do that. We appreciate it. We'll catch you guys tomorrow.